Count. 5. One, two, three, boys!
Oh, yeah, that's their mahi, boys. That's their mahi.
Kia ora whānau and welcome to Around the Grounds, a podcast from New Zealand Rugby, bringing you close to our national game. Today's pod is one very close to my rugby heart. So many great rugby memories in this grade. Really looking forward to discussing under 85 KG rugby, and we have assembled an awesome group of rugby men to discuss the history of this grade, their experiences, and some of the exciting opportunities that are coming up this year and in 2025. What a group we have in the studio. Welcome to Around the Grounds men, current under 85 kg player Jason Harris, RNZ journalist Jamie Wall, and of course former player, under 85 kg ambassador and former All Black coach Graham Henry. Sir Ted, welcome to the studio team. Thank you men for coming in. Ted, I wanted to start with you first. Like your fingerprints are over so many parts of New Zealand rugby, as we spoke about before we jumped on the microphone. Former student at Christchurch Boys High School, teacher at Auckland Grammar, principal Kelston Boys, coached Auckland, coached the Blues, patron at Varsity Rugby Club, All Blacks, Black Ferns, and that's without even going into the overseas CV. The question, mate, after that big intro is like, what's taking up your rugby time these days? Where are you spending your time when it's related to rugby environments?
Well, I'm the patron of under 85 rugby.
That's it.
For New Zealand. I'm also the patron for the New Zealand Rugby Foundation,
awesome, which
is the injured players. I watch a lot of footy.
Yep.
Other things too, but still involved.
Yeah. Went
to Dunedin for the English test.
Brilliant.
Because it was raised the first test. It was my first test 20 years ago, same place,
wow,
apart from Dunedin, but Carisbrook. So it was memories, but being supportive, but I still love the game. And under 85 is an opportunity for guys to play who may not play because they're a bit smaller, and they get opportunity to be national champions. And I hear there's going to be a New Zealand side selected.
Mate, you're breaking the story here first. I like it. I like it coming from your mouth. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, I think there's going to be a New Zealand side selected for next year.
How good.
Jamie, you'll have to get fit again.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
are we breaking the story that you're getting out the whiteboard and coaching it as well, or have I gone too far?
No, you've gone too far.
Never say never.
Thanks so much for coming in. But also, Jamie, RNZ journalist, and before we talk a little bit about your involvement as a player in under 85 kg rugby, tell us a little bit about the day job. Like, what does that involve in terms of covering rugby at Radio New Zealand?
That's basically it. I am the All Blacks web correspondent for RNZ. So I covering them this season. Obviously, spend the Super Rugby season covering those teams as well. But yeah, it's pretty much just keeping an eye on the All Blacks and what they're doing. So I was down in Wellington over the weekend, and obviously here this weekend, off to South Africa next week, which will be my first time over there. It's the last place I've the only place I haven't been to on tour with the All Blacks, so I'm very excited about that.
So cool. I'm not sure when this pod comes out, but yeah, as you point out, mate, we're in between test matches versus Argentina. Have you got a scoop for us for Saturday's team? If you're sifting around the hotel, have you been able to read any notes? I know Sir Graham and others used to love it when the media broke the team before it came out.
No, you'll have to check in with Liam Napier from the Herald, who's another guy who's involved with under 85 rugby for that sort of thing. But no, I mean, all I can tell you is what I think might happen.
Sure.
I think there might be a bit of a change up in loose forwards. We might be seeing a former All Black captain come back in.
What a tease.
And I think there might be a change on the wings as well.
There we go. Well, when this comes out, we'll see if you're right. But there's also, mate, that's pretty exciting to be going to South Africa, like a rugby mad country. They're humming at the moment. Like, gosh, that was a pretty impressive display at the weekend. And so that will be a great place, particularly if it is sort of the last country on the rugby bucket list to tick off and see what it's like to be, pitch side for a match there with South African fans. And
I'll see you there, Jamie.
Are you going?
Yeah.
Taking it to it?
Catch up.
Yes.
Both Johannesburg and Cape Town?
Of course.
They're great. Right.
And then Kruger Park in between.
Oh, very nice.
Ride a few elephants and a few lions.
You'll have to do it on my behalf. I'm not going to get enough spare time to get to Kruger.
Well, I'll tell you about it.
All right. I'll catch up with you for a debrief.
Okay, bud.
Oh, man, there's potentially some great storytelling done on that tour, I could tell. Jason, clearly the most creditable guest that we have in the studio today, mate, being a current player. But firstly, look, what's the day job? And on a Saturday, who do you run out for?
Yeah, so work at Key Rail, account manager there, so a bit of a club battler for Grammar Tech.
How good.
Play for the old boys team. Been doing so for a little while now, about 14 years, I think. So 200 odd games.
Oh my lord, that's outstanding.
Yeah. So yeah, just keep coming back every year. Partners, she's not quite as she's starting to the support's starting to wear a little bit thin with the kid at home, but yeah, still just love it, the weekend and everything about it. Yeah.
Well, let's be honest, mate. We're talking about before as well. You've got to have something to break it up from the criticisms of Kerry Rail, in the media or during the week. Nah, I'm just joking, mate. But it's great to see you, still running out there, fighting the good fight with the misses, and to have played over 200 games for a club is an outstanding effort. Well done, mate.
Brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. Look, guys, it's we're here to talk about under 85 kg rugby, and I'm hoping amongst the room we've got enough knowledge to sort of talk about what is under 85s? When did it start? Where's it played? I know it's one of those things where you probably see a little bit here and there. Sometimes a game will pop up on TV. You'll see a little bit of coverage. But, do we know, perhaps where under 85 started and kind of where we're at today? I might go to you, Jamie, knowing that you're a former player like myself.
I can speak to that because I started playing in the grade not long after it began.
Awesome.
I came and played in the grade out of school, obviously a few years and a few kgs ago. My first season was in 2000 down in Wellington for the Porniki Club.
Oh, well, so 24 years ago,
Yeah, it's a long time now.
Sorry to point that out. But
but I was 18 years old and it was a great grade for me to go into because I didn't have to go and play against some massive sort of guys that were running around in the Wellington Premier competition or senior competition at the time. A lot of my friends from school were playing as well. And it had started, I think, in about 1996 or 97.
Yep.
And I believe it had started in Wellington, it was their... they were going for it,
I think there was an earlier grade where I think it was under 77 kgs or something like that in Auckland, but I'm not sure when that started. But yes.
Yeah, so at that time it was very popular grade in Wellington. We had 3 divisions of 36 teams.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So my team started in Division 3. By 2003 we'd worked up to Division 1 and we won the first division in 2003 and we won it another 4 times. After that. So I played 9 seasons there. We had a representative team for a couple of years. So I was privileged enough to play for Wellington for a couple of years. Came up here and played against Auckland. They said we were going to play at Eden Park, but it rained all week and they didn't actually tell us, but the bus went straight past down the motorway past Western Springs and we went to Waitemata instead. But that was still a great experience.
Coach of Auckland probably said don't let them rip up the turf until drive on.
Yeah, thanks for that.
What year we doing?
2003?
No, I was in Wales. I was home by then.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's that I guess going right back to the start, that's where it kind of began, and I don't think culturally it hasn't really strayed too far.
No, it's still the same. When I started playing in 2011 up in Auckland, same thing. There was 3 divisions, 30 teams. And the team that I played for, bunch of lads out of school. Bunch of battlers thought, what better way to spend a Saturday than throwing the ball around. I don't think it's changed that much over the time.
And I think we're right in saying this, aren't we, Ted, that it's now spread to at least 5 associations around the country now have official under 85 grades. I think that's right, isn't it?
As far as I know, a couple of years ago there was 5 provinces playing under 85 rugby, but to enter the national competition, National Under 85 Club competition, you can enter a team from your club as long as they're under 85 kilo.
Brilliant.
And so you get 50 teams contesting the national competition. I think it's quarter-final weekend this weekend, which is brilliant. So it's got real high profile. I see they're playing the final as a curtain raiser to the Australian Test in Wellington in September 17th, am I right?
September 28th in Wellington.
Oh, okay, I got that wrong. But the finals, a curtain raiser to the Test, which is fantastic.
Unreal. And it's, I think you're right, it's born out of those origins you speak to. Wellington, Auckland really adopted it. It's gone in other places throughout the country. I know in my area in the Bay of Plenty, the Colts grade is actually Colts under 85s. So the beautiful thing about that is you can get, I'm still on call on the waiting list, to be if needed, and if they want the option to enter the under 85 competition, then it's not just about the grade, but there's the option to jump into that National Cup. I first want to go back to your motivations, guys, for getting in. Like you talked a little bit around, obviously, there's some pretty big units in senior Premier Rugby in Wellington, Auckland, even Christchurch, etc. as well. It's an opportunity there. Maybe not necessarily, I'm sure, in your job, pretty busy, aspirational, trying to tick a few boxes yourself as well. So was it just a little bit more flexibility, but also still being able to join in with a bunch of like-minded individuals? Socially, it's a great grade, isn't it? Like everyone gets along really well. There's heaps of banter. Like I think probably when I played, there was more banter with opposition teams than when I was playing, senior rugby in Christchurch. It just seemed to be the nature of the grade that little people are lippier. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think a few of the refs that come down from the Prem's grade always get a bit of a shock with the amount of words that are getting spoken. But yeah, you're right. It's I certainly wouldn't be playing rugby now if it wasn't for 85s rugby. But yeah, it was just such a great way to meet. Moving to Auckland first time, didn't know anyone. Moved went along to a team and made a whole bunch of lifetime mates. So it was, that was probably the driving force factor to go play for the 85s rather than try it out in the senior. Didn't help that weight restriction. I was probably 70 kgs or something, dripping wet at the time. So it's just allowed me to keep playing.
Totally, and that's what, it doesn't matter what sport it is, but that's what sport gives you, isn't it? Is almost a ready group of mates, like ready to go straight away, bit of a shared passion. Yeah. Jamie, for you, was it the same? Like a lot of the guys that you played, 9 years, which is a really good stint. Are those still guys that you're on WhatsApp groups with, and when you're looking for some, grassroots commentary on the rugby scene, you can go to no doubt an opinionated group of individuals that you used to play rugby with?
I could show you the WhatsApp. I don't think NZ Rugby wants that sort of content out there, but yes,
just the pulse of rugby,
yeah, but like I said, they're my friends, for life. That we've shared something in common a long time ago. I actually prepared for this podcast by going back down to Wellington on the weekend.
There it is.
Visit Pornick in their first round of the National Club Cup competition. They played against Coastal from Taranaki.
Brilliant.
Who had come down, and the guys who played for my team from 20 years ago used it as a way of getting back together and watching the game down at the club. We also had a reunion game a couple of months ago where we got about 30 of us together. Played against an invitational side of the teams that we used to play against. Ended up being a bit more heated than we thought it would be because some of those guys had a few scores to settle against us. But the most important thing is we had a great night afterwards and caught up with a lot of guys we hadn't seen in a long time, and also contributed quite a lot to the club, both culturally and financially over that weekend. And I think that's a big thing that this grade is about what it can bring to clubs. You have a lot of guys who will come and they'll stay. Was it 14 years?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's 9 years. The only reason I stopped was because I moved up to Auckland, and I've been at the same club I've been at for the last 10.
Yeah.
And this grade keeps people in clubs, and not just as players, but as people who end up being coaches in management and administrating the club as well. My club down Pornick, down in Wellington, the chairman is a former teammate of mine, the secretary is a former teammate of mine, and our former manager is on the board as well. So that, I think, is something that people probably don't understand about the importance of keeping teams together, is what they'll give back to your club in the long run.
I totally agree. I know, like at your club, we were a patron at Varsity. There's numerous under 85 kg teams. I know the chairman of the board is someone who's been a real champion, Dave Hutchins, for under 85 kg rugby. Sue Graham, you touched on it a little bit. How long has this grade or promoting this grade or promoting this initiative been on your radar? Was this come back from your time in education when you sort of saw, from an early age where there was differences in size and shape and development and all that sort of stuff? Or is it more now that you're out of the professional realms, you see an opportunity here to create rugby for everyone?
No, I just got to love the game. And I think community rugby suffered since the game's gone professional. And we just need to try and make it attractive as much as possible for young people to play the game. And this is a grade which is bloody attractive for young people to play the game. And as Jamie said, they're not only are these guys filling the club rooms and they bring their ladies, which is a positive.
That's the attractive part.
And their families. So half the club room's full with under 85 players.
Yeah.
And that's good financially. And again, they're the future referees, future coaches, future administrators, and we keep them in the game. And it's an attractive proposition. Otherwise, they wouldn't play, a lot of them. And so we just got to keep on fostering it. And I'm pleased they're doing that, hopefully. So they give it even more profile. So the more we can give community rugby profile, the better the teams in the black jerseys are going to be.
Totally.
So we get that foundation right. And I know under 85s is part of that, but I think if you go even further, we need a national club competition in community rugby. Like Paniki playing university. Sorry, grammar.
Oh, Graham. Now we're talking my language now, mate. This is a whole other podcast. Now we're talking.
So you just need to give it profile.
Where's Robbo? Where's Lancaster Sev? Let's get them listening to this one.
Hopefully they're listening. And so we should have our NPC and Super Rugby at the same time. Start senior club rugby a wee bit later. Have a national champion televised. And give community rugby profile. 85s is doing their thing.
Totally.
And we can do it even better, I think.
Coach makes a great point, and I think this can also just be used as a blueprint. Yep. You can try things in this grade.
Yeah.
Both the way it's presented, perhaps even with refereeing, interpretations. It's a great petri dish, if you know what I mean, to see what works and what doesn't, and to have it as a product that can be put on TV. It's great because the rugby's great. I remember we watched the first final up in the Babas box, Eden versus University. Fantastic game.
Wrong result.
Wrong result. Sorry to bring it up, but but it was an absolute,
sorted out last year though.
But it was an absolutely incredible game to watch. And I remember thinking to myself, I just remember thinking to myself, like, damn, this is going to work. And you've got this thing that you can put on TV and people are going to be impressed by.
100%. Look, before we get in to talk a little bit more around the National Club Cup, any great stories from yourselves that you can reflect on over the last couple of years? I know, there's all those, God, every single Saturday that I played, there'd be 4 or 5 guys trying to get underweight, running around the field, trying to lose a couple of kgs before so that they could play. Some would weigh in, some would weigh out. A good player would weigh out. You'd be like, yes, he's out of the game. Sit down, big guy. And but that was kind of all a part of it, and a little bit different and a little bit unique. But actually going off and playing in Auckland semis and finals from the 85 grade, I was just as nervous as I was playing Premier, even more so, to be honest, for some reason. It just created its own bit of momentum. Have you guys got some stories from your time, and mate, you're still going and maybe hoping to make a little bit of your own history still?
So I mean, unfortunately, we did get knocked out last week, so on the weekend. So
one more year.
Exactly. But no, I mean, I've had a lot of opportunities over the years. There was a couple of years where I played for Auckland. I was able to play some rep rugby, so that was amazing, right? And never would have had that opportunity.
And often, play Harbour, play Waikato?
Waikato, Harbour, Counties, and a Thames Valley and King Country development team, which was a lot of fun against the big boys. That was one of the highlights. Last year we were able to travel down for the quarter final against the strong New Plymouth team, and played on Yarrow Stadium down there, and that was an awesome experience running out on curtain raiser there. It was just quite special, it did help that we had a great win. And as you say, every weekend is something kind of special about meeting up with the boys and getting changed, getting ready, and going out there.
And it's awesome to hear. And I think my highlight from back in the day, and I mean I could crap on about all the great finals and successes we played, and I could crap on even more about all the stuff we did after the games, which I know you don't want to hear about.
Totally do. I can
well, we'll talk about it afterwards. But I think for me the biggest highlight was my old team, Porniki, playing in their first ever National Club Cup comp match, which was, if you remember, was actually still during the COVID kind of times. And so the team had to fly up to Auckland and then isolate themselves in a bus and drive down into North Counties to play against Morrinsville, because we weren't allowed to play in Auckland itself. So I went down to that game. There were still a couple of guys who were in my team that were still playing at the time. And it was sealed with a try, like bang on full time. And I was there with Mike Hester, whose concept the National Club Cup was. By the time the game had finished, I'd drank about 6 quarts of Lion Red. So he got to hear all of my thoughts about everything about that. But it was just a fantastic occasion. And because we'd sort of come out of a really tough year, not just for rugby, but just life in general, to have that moment of, victory and coming together. And Morrinsville were great. They come up, and of course we had the boat race after the game, which is a real big part of the grade. And to go off knowing that we'd done something pretty special that day, and all I did was watch. And I still felt great about it.
Yeah, mate. You touch on something there, like particularly off the back of COVID, wasn't it? I remember getting back and just coaching my kids' teams in the first weekends after COVID, and people, there was actually like an atmosphere. Like people were excited to be back together. They were excited to be back and have a coffee on the sidelines and be a part. It doesn't have to be rugby, but just be back a part of something in your community, in your club. Thank you, boys, for sharing that stuff. Let's just talk a little bit about the National Club Cup. Like, it's probably, am I right in saying, Jason, maybe it gets you putting the boots on for a couple more seasons than what you normally would, and like there's that little carrot there is actually maybe not just drawing people into the grade, but maybe getting them to play an extra season or two, because there's a carrot, like we talk about participation and that sort of stuff and having fun, but like, let's be honest, we all love a bit of a carrot. We all love to try and achieve something and win something with your mates. It's a really done properly, a great aspect of sport, isn't it?
Yeah. No, certainly. There's something for everybody, right? With this sort of, you've got that social aspect, and then at the end of the year, you've got the opportunity to go play in front of the All Blacks and Curtin Rays in Wellington. It's certainly if I was still in the comp, I'd be doing a lot more fitness and over the next few weeks. But so yeah, it will probably draw me back for another year, I'd say. So that's it's awesome.
And do we know, mate, sorry to put pressure on you, Jace, but do we know where we're at? We've just had quarterfinal weekend. Who else is still in the hunt? Like, I know, completely apolitical here, that Old Boys, I think, won it last year. Mates that I used to play with and coach, Jared Percival down in high school, Old Boys, which is awesome. So I watched that game. I was tuned into how they were going to go. How are we looking this year? Like, what teams are still in the mix? We just got through quarterfinal weekend, did you say?
Round three in the Auckland northern part of the comp.
Cool.
Old Boys, they knocked us out in the semi-final last year, unfortunately. So they'll be strong this year. Pakuranga, who beat us, they'll be pretty good. There's a couple of Naki teams that I think will be right up there. And Wellington, so it's the beauty of the national comp. You don't quite know what you're going to get.
Are universities still alive?
The Slugs. There is a university team, or the Slugs, that are still in there.
There we go.
So I think
they're due.
They're due.
And I got a taste of the Wellington comp this year, so can safely say that Porniki Wanderers are looking pretty sharp.
Good.
Down there are some other strong Wellington teams as well. Tower, RFC, they won the local competition, so they'll be up there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the regions that don't actually have under 85 comps can put together, because we saw the success of the Southern Bush Pigs for a couple of years there, who were drawn from the Colts grades in Otago.
Yes.
And we had a couple of teams from South Canterbury as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's such a cool opportunity, right, to play all these different teams that you wouldn't normally play.
Yeah.
Okay, so you touched on it at the start, Ted. Like, from what I'm told, we're going to select a New Zealand under 85 kg team, which I think is a bit of a coup. Like, it has to go up the totem pole and get up to the top and be board approved. But was that something you pushed for, or something you're really happy to see now come to fruition. Like we've just talked about, lads, the carrot of trying to win a National Club Cup, but also there's an additional carrot as well, which is not just an Auckland jersey or a Wellington jersey, but like we're a black jersey, which I think that's pretty exciting, isn't it? Is it something you must be stoked?
Yeah, I am stoked. We've been pushing for it for about 3 or 4 years, and I think it's official. I think it's gone through the board. I think I'm allowed to say that.
It's got the stamp of approval. I think you're right.
Where they're going is under wraps at this stage.
Yeah.
But it's another carrot, isn't it? It gives guys a pathway to represent their country at the level that they play at. Yeah. And under 85s national competition, next step is for New Zealand. It's going to attract a lot more schoolboys who are under 85 to play rugby when they leave school.
Totally.
Because they've got a pathway to play for their country. Amateur, of course.
Yeah.
But fantastic opportunity.
I think too there's, and I'm sure Jamie, hopefully you'll back me up on this, but like quite often, the things that get repeated is like how big players are in, say, a senior club rugby in Auckland or Wellington or Christchurch, how big players are in first 15 grades. Elements of that are true. But, I was sitting there on Saturday watching Tauranga Boys College play Hamilton Boys. Yes, there were some big units, but I'd say probably 50% of them were my size or smaller. So my point being is when they leave that grade, they're doing fantastically well to be playing first 15 rugby. They're excellent rugby players, very fit, great catch and pass, very skillful. But they may not end up being huge humans. And here's an opportunity for them.
Exactly.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because while we, we found a grade we liked and we stayed in it, and, it's because of many other aspects of, off the field and just friendship and things like that, we stayed there. But I can tell you about a bunch of guys that started in 85s that eventually ended up going much higher. There's a guy from Porniki who ended up playing 220 games for the Premiers after a couple of seasons of starting out there. And he managed to make that transition like that, and I don't think he's alone, in terms of clubs around the country, because at the moment, club rugby, you can't ignore all the teams in your club in terms of premier development. So I think it's still part of the club's talent tree, if you know what I mean. Totally. And I think that this team could potentially be part of the wider talent tree for New Zealand rugby. So it's not just aiming for a black jersey; it might be aiming for something even higher than that.
Good point.
Yeah, totally. And I'm speculating a little bit, and maybe Ted, you have a view on this, but I have to assume that there's a whole world of under 85 countries out there, in terms of we deal with countries. South Africans are big humans, where there's some very big New Zealanders, there's big Fijians, etc. But there has to be a whole other opportunity out there that not just exists with our teams and having a national team, but the opportunity to play and sort of lift up rugby in other countries, because perhaps in, say, an Asian country, playing the All Blacks maybe is not on their radar in the short term, but a team like this perhaps is something that they could build, literally build a structure around,
Well, Asia comes to mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
And Japan, they'll be frightening at under 85.
Oh, my God.
They're so bloody quick and skillful.
They so would.
So they're obvious candidates. Korea, Sri Lanka, Hong Kong,
totally,
Thailand. They all love their rugby. The Sri Lankans are
into it.
Oh, I went to a first 15 game there a few years ago. There was 27,000 people watching a first 15 game in Sri Lanka.
Wow.
So they're into rugby.
Yeah.
They're just too small. Yeah. This is an obvious opportunity for New Zealand to connect with the Asian countries and develop rugby in those countries and look after our under 85 guys at the same time.
If I can just add something to that, and it's a great point, because that whole part of the world is something that's been talked about ever since we would have been playing, when we were dreaming up the concept of a national under 85s small blacks team back in 20 years ago. That's what we thought of. But you look at Australian rugby right now, you look at Super Rugby Pacific, who were the two most impressive players this year? I'd say it'd be Corey Toole and Tim Ryan, who were both 80 kgs dripping wet. So if those guys are playing Super Rugby level over there, there's got to be a ton more under 85s running around in their park grades and so forth that can put a team together. And I think maybe it's just a case of NZ Rugby taking this model to Australia, to England, wherever, France, and saying, this works.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right.
But they've been involved before,
Yeah.
Australia
Yeah.
and some of the Asian countries. And they've had tournaments before.
Yeah.
And it's just been every now and again.
Yeah.
Hadn't
Just
hadn't been well organised. So this is an opportunity to put it on the map.
totally. Guys, I think we're almost done, but is there anything else you want to comment on in the grade? Is there something you're looking forward to? You know, have you got a prediction who's going to win the national under 85 kg club competition? Who's going to make the New Zealand team? You must have some people that I know. I remember when I was playing, there was guys out there who they'd either come back and they were into jobs and they're quite busy, so they come down from like NPC type rugby and they were playing, under 85s. And you're right, to your point before, we had guys in our grade who I know, the coach of College Rifles at the time was like, would you like to get involved and look at, senior premier rugby? What's your predictions, mate? And is there a couple of names out there that if I tune in on September 28th to the curtain raiser of Australia, versus the All Blacks, it's not about Joe Smith and Razor, but it's about a couple of guys that you think might make the side.
Yeah. Oh, I guess all the ones that we got knocked out last weekend.
All GT players.
All the GT players.
Yeah.
So it'll be hard to, knockout football is hard to predict, right? You don't know who you're going to come up
But
against.
you've got I'm asking you to predict them.
Here we go. Fakaraga, I guess, would,
strong side.
Strong side. They were a very composed team. We put them under a lot of pressure, but they were just able to ground us out.
Peter Alatini's had a few games for them over the years, hasn't he? He's put on the boots a few times for that grade, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
And the New Plymouth Old Boys, I think they're going to be very hard to beat. They've got a few very, very good players playing for them, and I'm sure high school Old Boys in South Island will be tough to beat.
Jamie, any clubs or names spring to mind?
Well, Rifles got bounced in the second round, unfortunately, but Pornick still in the grade, and some great players down in that team. I'll chuck a couple of names there. Nick Robertson, playing some real good footy down there. Max Rogers as well. And I've got to shout out to my man Jeremy Hargraves, the Wanderers. If you remember last year, they played a game against I think it was New Plymouth Old Boys, and he had a bit of an argument with the referee that went viral.
Yes, it did. Brilliant.
The more screen time he gets, the better it'll be for rugby. But you mentioned Pakuranga before. There's a guy playing lock for them, Stephen Edwards. He's pretty sharp.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's up in the line out.
Yeah.
Ted, to finish with you, if we go, would you love to see a World Cup? Would you love to see a rugby championship that was a version of, is that, where you'd love to see it evolve to? We're making steps, we're talking about concepts from 20 years ago that are now, coming to fruition, but let's be ambitious, let's...
finance is an issue.
Yeah.
So it has to be reasonably close. Aussie's a good idea. Asia. I hear that DMAC wants to play.
Yeah. Well, I heard Brad Webber was very keen on it.
Oh, Brad Webber?
Yeah.
Well, so we might... Razor would have to release DMAC, of course. I don't know if that's a possibility.
Could go grassroots on it and play the first game in the curtain raiser and then bench for the All Blacks.
I would imagine.
They keep losing.
We won't go there, but I believe the Slugs have got a good chance. The University Slugs are winning this national title.
Totally.
Eh?
Well, why not? Absolutely.
Exactly. So, no, it's brilliant. It's exciting. We just got to keep on building it.
Yeah, totally. Men, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming in, talking a little bit about an awesome part of New Zealand rugby that hopefully is going to continue to grow and all sorts of opportunities for its players. Enjoy the rugby this week. Hopefully the All Blacks can get up. By the time this gets released, we can see whether Jamie's insights were correct. But no, I appreciate it, lads, and enjoy yourself out there, whether it be still putting the boots on, which is so impressive, covering it, or just telling a few stories, Ted.
Staying alive.
Good on your team. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.